For decades they crossed steppes, forests and invisible borders, yet hardly anyone remembers them. Today we unearth the Soviet tractor-trailers that never saw glory, secret prototypes, futuristic designs, and mechanical monsters that flirted with the impossible. From forward-set cabs to modular road trains, these nearly forgotten titans deserve a second look. Get ready for a route loaded with history, power and machines the world almost forgot. During the era of the Soviet Union, during the years of Soviet power, freight transport became one of the strategic pillars of national development. Along with the railways, trucks were responsible for moving most goods within the country, leading more than 20 factories to produce heavy trucks on a large scale. At its peak, the USSR built more than 800,000 freight vehicles a year. It was almost impossible to find a Soviet citizen who hadn't seen or worked with one of these rugged road companions. Some models became so common they were recognized even in the most remote villages. But today we're not talking about the classics. Today we explore those trucks that almost nobody remembers. KAMAZ 6410. The KAMAZ 6410 was an experimental prototype developed in 1980 by the Kama automobile plant. This truck broke from the conventions of mass production models. It had 3 axles, single-tire wheels, and an upgraded air suspension system that allowed it to haul up to 30 tons on a semi-trailer. Under the hood, a 12-cylinder diesel delivered 320 horsepower, extraordinary for its era, before turbos became standard. It featured a retractable rear axle that could be lifted when running empty, reducing road wear and fuel consumption. The cab itself was newly designed, set forward and lower to improve visibility. Although it passed every test, the ministry ultimately chose a MAZ model, leaving the 6410 to fade into obscurity. NAMI 0286 Typhoon, created in 1989 by the NAMI Institute in cooperation with KAMAZ, the Typhoon was a laboratory on wheels. Its V8 turbo diesel produced nearly 500 horsepower, but what truly stood out was the electronics. Electronic fuel injection, polymer engine components, and an innovative 14-speed gearbox. Its onboard computer not only managed the engine but also maintained constant speed and monitored distance to other vehicles. Thanks to complex hydraulics, the middle axle could steer in sync with the front wheels. Inside, the cab was pure luxury for its time-flat floor, generous space, cutting-edge tech. Yet after a decade sitting in KAMAZ workshops, the prototype was finally dismantled. New KAMAZ cab in Naberezhnya Chelny in 1988, engineers raced to create a new KAMAZ cab from scratch, designed not just to modernize but to compete internationally. The result impressed everyone: a flush-mounted windshield, a co-driver's seat that folded into a bed, headlamps hidden behind bumper covers, and air suspension for the cab itself. Reception was so enthusiastic that many suspected it copied the DAF-95, though the engineers insisted it was an original design. A prototype was sent to the Amsterdam Motor Show in 1989, but it was damaged during transport and never exhibited. A few trucks with this cab survived for a time in private hands. NAMI 0295 Rus. In 1990, NAMI surprised again with a futuristic concept. The Rus emphasized ecology and driver comfort. Its fiberglass cab on a steel frame offered excellent aerodynamics and came equipped with air conditioning, onboard diagnostics, and a rear-view camera remarkable for the early 1990s. Its 400-horsepower engine was computer-controlled, managing injection timing, boost pressure, and ignition advance. Both axles had air suspension. The brakes were discs, and an automatic system monitored trailer weight. It debuted at the 1993 Auto Initiative exhibition in Sokolniki, but like the Typhoon, ended up languishing in KAMAZ workshops with no clear path to production. MAZ 2000, modular road train. This revolutionary prototype was built in 1988 by the Minsk automobile plant. It was a modular road train with no clear separation between tractor and trailer, designed to grow in length by adding powered modules. The basic version weighed 33 tons. With an extra drive module, it reached 41 tons, and with a trailer it could haul up to 80 tons, comparable to Australian road trains. It carried a 6-cylinder MAN diesel producing 290 horsepower, paired with a 12-speed gearbox and ABS. Astonishingly, the cab itself did not pivot in turns. Only the chassis articulated a feature that impressed even European engineers. Inside, the high-roof, flat-floor cab offered comforts rare for the time: refrigerator, electric stove, air conditioning, and rear-view cameras. Displayed at the Paris Motor Show, it earned a gold medal. Production as the MAS 2000 was planned, but the USSR's collapse stopped everything. Only 2 units were ever built. One was scrapped in 2004, and the other has stood since 2010 as a monument at the Minsk factory entrance. ZIL 5423. This hooded model was a limited production vehicle from the famous ZIL plant, developed in the early 1990s at the Likhachov factory. It was designed for road trains with a total mass of up to 30 tons and came in both 2- and 3-axle versions. It could be fitted with an 8-cylinder ZIL 6451 turbo diesel producing 210 horsepower or a Caterpillar 3116 engine with 250 horsepower paired with a 9-speed gearbox. Its features were more than generous. Anti-lock braking system, refrigerator, microwave, wardrobe, and even a TV set. Externally, it looked striking. It used the cab of the ZIL 4331, stretched and topped with a plastic fairing that greatly increased interior space. When unveiled to the public in 1995, it made an immediate impression. Long hood, aerodynamic bumpers, a spacious sleeper for 2 everything recalled American long-nose trucks. The Moscow city government planned to buy 100 units, but the order never materialized. The model continued to be built to special order for a few years, but it never went into full-scale production. MAS 5445. Another experiment from the Minsk automobile plant in the early 1990s, this prototype clearly drew inspiration from the Renault Magnum. Its roomy cab had a flat floor and was separate from the chassis. With vertical headlights and a fiberglass body, power came from an 8-cylinder 2-type turbo diesel delivering 380 horsepower using standard components for axles and transmission. The plan was to put it into series production, but there was no funding. After being shown at a few events, the sole prototype ended up abandoned in a corner of the factory yard. In the early 2000s, a Moscow company bought the vehicle, replaced the experimental cab with a conventional metal one, and put it up for sale. From that point on, the unusual mass disappeared into the Altai region, and it's very likely it did not survive. ZIL S133VE. The S133 was a 6x4 tractor unit developed in 1982 to haul road trains weighing up to 40 tons. Inside the plant, it earned the nickname Saigak after the steppe antelope. Based on the ZIL 133, it was equipped with a turbocharged diesel engine sourced from Kamaz. This 4-stroke engine sat beneath the same cab as the ZIL 133G, raised about 170 millimeters. The cab and front-end assembly followed an integrated tilting design to allow easy access to the engine. Its signature look featured an ochre body with a black radiator grille. Testing revealed the need for a more comfortable cab and a stronger engine, around 300 horsepower. In 1989, a sleeper cab and the front section of the 4331 model were added. Even so, the truck was never mass-produced. MAS 520V. This 3-axle experimental truck was built in 1964 and represented a design completely atypical for Soviet engineering. Instead of the usual layout of one front axle and one rear axle, the MAS 520V had 2 steering axles at the front and 1 driven axle at the rear. This arrangement improved weight distribution and reduced load on the front axle, thereby increasing payload capacity. It was powered by an 11-liter 6-cylinder MZ236 engine producing 180 horsepower and paired with a 5-speed manual gearbox. All axles used leaf spring suspension, and the chassis was lengthened. Its unladen weight was 6,790 kilograms, 4,625 kilograms on the front axles, and 2,165 kilograms on the rear. With a semi-trailer, the total mass reached 150 kilograms, of which 7,800 kilograms rested on the tractor's front axles and 10,900 kilograms on the rear. Compared to the MAS 504, it achieved a more than 40% increase in permissible fifth-wheel load. However, testing exposed key issues. Dual front steering complicated handling, especially at higher speeds, and the single rear drive axle offered poor off-road ability on slippery climbs. It was easily immobilized. The final deciding factor was cost. It was far more expensive than a standard 2-axle MAS 500. The project was shelved. ZIL 175. This experimental giant was conceived in 1967 as the foundation for what would become the first generation of KAMAZ trucks. The ZIL 170 was a landmark in Soviet engineering, brimming with technical innovations. Featuring modern styling and a spacious cab equipped with a sleeper berth. It was powered by an 11-liter YMZ 740 diesel, producing 210 horsepower, matched to a 10-speed manual transmission and power steering with an integrated servo mechanism. Its standout feature was a multi-circuit pneumatic brake system with spring-type energy accumulators to guarantee braking even in the event of failure. The original plan envisioned 9 variants of the ZIL 170. However, with the construction of the KAMAZ plant, the project's developments were transferred. From 1976 to 1997, the ZIL 170 evolved into the popular KAMAZ 5410, changing the history of Soviet transport forever. If these forgotten Soviet tractor-trailers left you amazed, don't forget to like and subscribe. Here we bring back to life the giants the world nearly erased from the map. See you on the next route, where the roar of the past still guides the way.